found her in 24 hours, there'll be nothing left to find.
Tanner.
Cody.
This is your cue.
Oh.
I want you to look in the distance right now. You see something horrifying, something atrocious, something diabolical. You can't find it in yourself to scream. Maybe if you say something funny, something hilarious, it'll distract you just long enough. Say something funny, Tanner, now!
I got lotion on my dick right now. I'm stroking my I'm stroking my shit.
Welcome to the Bomb Squad Matinee. I am your host and ninth wonder of the world, Cody Suizo. Hello. I'm here with many other wonders, such as...
Hi, I'm Tanner Richard Kraft.
Hi, I'm Austin Zwiebelman, and this is my favorite film about guerrilla warfare.
I'm Tim Emsold.
And today, we are talking about King Kong, Peter Jackson's King Kong from 2005. Before we start talking about the film, fellas, I have a curious question for you. Do you guys have any history with King Kong, whether it be through the films or any other sort of media? I'll start with you, Tanner.
Yeah, so King Kong and I, we go way back, man. We first met on the mean streets of Manhattan in 1977. And as the 70s turned into the 80s and the crime wave epidemic really hit New York, him and I, we got involved in some shady business. We started trafficking cocaine. You know, we had to do what we had to do to survive. And, Kong will never forgive me because the cops finally caught up to us and I had to run. I had a kid at home, man. I couldn't let his father go to prison. And
That's pretty much the plot of King Kong Lives.
Sorry, when you phrased the question as with the movies or otherwise, I just thought, well, obviously otherwise is he's my personal friend.
Yeah, I just meant other media, but that also works.
Well, with the movies, when I was a teenager discovering classic cinema, I know I watched the original King Kong at some point. I probably thought it was really cool. At the time, mostly because I was like, damn, look at all this claymation with the people in the claymation. You know, I was a very simple kid. And now as an adult, I'm like, wow, holy shit, this must have been so hard. With the original movie. You watch the original and you go, oh my god, how the fuck did they do this? They didn't have computers.
Yeah.
But I think like the big Kong thing I have personally is that I saw Kong Skull Island a month before it came out because starting in early 2017, I started signing up for a bunch of these early screening websites. You can just do this, by the way. The studios have websites you can sign up accounts for, and they'll put out early screeners and shit. So I got to see Kong Skull Island a fucking month early. The earliest I ever got to see a movie before it went wide in America until last year when I saw the Robbie Williams Monkey movie like 3 fucking months early. It's all monkey. I as far as I'm aware, I was the first person to publish a review on Kong Skull Island because I didn't know what review embargoes were. So after I watched it, I just posted a video to my YouTube channel. Nothing happened because it got like 34 views. But I was just like, holy shit, man, Vietnam, but like gorilla. That's my big King Kong thing.
It's like Schrodinger's embargo. Like, did you break it if no one looked at the review?
Yeah, like, does it count if no one saw it? I don't know. Like,
classic Schrodinger's
can I get retroactively dinged for that? I don't know. Now I take that seriously. No, dead ass. When I saw the Robbie Williams Monkey movie, I like Googled review embargo because we do get enough views now where I could hypothetically get in trouble for that. We're fine, and I'm not like an accredited critic, so I don't think there are any consequences that could be levied against me. But still, I don't know. King Kong was one of those things where, like, I always remember King Kong. I always remember Godzilla. Like, King Kong had already been around for 65 years by the time I was born. And
by the time you guys met?
Yeah, but when we met in the 70s, trafficking cocaine, sometimes I shudder at night when I hear a knock at the door, thinking he's finally caught up to me, with a gun. But I don't know, man. It's kind of hard to talk about my history of King Kong because King Kong's always been there. I've been watching these new MonsterVerse movies. I think they're pretty fun. Kong Skull Island was pretty solid. And I watched Peter Jackson's King Kong for the first time 2 days ago. What did I think? You better wait.
Yes, indeed, because we got more questions for you. Like, Austin, what are your thoughts? What is your history with Kong?
My history with King Kong is fairly minimal. In my room growing up, I had this vintage King Kong plush. He used to watch over me while I wet the bed. Then in the basement, we had the Good Times video VHS of King Kong versus Godzilla. I don't remember a goddamn thing about that movie, besides, like, the childhood notion that it would be so badass if you had King Kong fight Godzilla. Jump ahead to when I was 11. This movie came out in theaters. We'll talk more about that coming up. But I had this really incredible experience later that year. We drove down to Florida for a vacation. It was 2 a.m. My mother had fallen asleep with the TV on, and lo and behold, it was the 1933 King Kong on Turner Classic Movies. All my life, up until this moment, I had thought very little of older movies from the black and white era. To use, like, video games as an example, in my mind, the 2000-aughts remakes were like PS5 games. And those movies from before the 60s were like Atari 2600. Like, comparing, like, Grand Theft Auto to Pong, not even a fun 2600 game like Pitfall or Breakout, like fucking Pong. But I sat there in the 2 a.m. Florida morning glow. I was amazed to see how much cool stuff actually happened in the old King Kong. That might have been, like, the first time I was really blown away by a movie from around that time that wasn't The Wizard of Oz. And that inspired me to read more about special effects, stuff like The Lost World. And when I was 14, I made a shitty little documentary for my media tech class about the history of visual effects in films. I don't know if that's still up on the internet. Since then, though, like, the Kong movies have dropped off fiercely, in my opinion. So I'm really happy we're talking about the Peter Jackson remake today. There's a lot of good stuff to discuss here. That's my history with the monkey. Back to you, Cody.
Yeah, more on future stuff, future Kong stuff later. Also, fuck you for saying Pong is bad, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
How dare you?
I was trying not to scream "fuck you" into the microphone. Pong.
Okay. Suck dick. Compared to Yar's Revenge, Pong is like fucking Snake. Okay, video games got better.
Never mind.
Also
We're cutting
awesome.
off. No, we're cutting off. Tim, what's your history?
So, my history is fairly brief. I watched this movie that we're talking about. This was the first King Kong thing I ever watched. Like, it was, sort of like Godzilla, where, before I actually was properly introduced to the character, like, I knew of King Kong, but the first King Kong thing I ever watched was this movie, the 2005 Peter Jackson movie, and so far in my life, I have seen it twice. The first time was December 26th, 2005. Went to see it on the big screen with my best friend at the time, and the second time was 2 nights ago. At home on Netflix with my fiance. And yeah, I'll certainly have plenty to say about this film. But then in college, majored in film production, and in my history of film class that they made me take. One of the films we watched, which the teacher specifically said this is the least favorite film that he shows, and he shows Birth of a Nation. One of the least favorite film that he shows is the original King Kong.
What do you mean by that? What does he mean by that?
Oh,
Or actually, wait, no, sorry. Least favorite film he shows is The Jazz Singer, but he also thought King Kong was stupid.
Oh, thank God. That's another racist one. Okay, he's in the clear.
King Kong's a little bit racist, too, let's be real.
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen, it's fine. By the way, audience, the camera changed. Don't worry about it.
They won't notice. They won't notice. All right.
But yeah, no, the original King Kong, obviously, is one of the most important movies ever made. Certainly the most important of the King Kong movies. Just for all it did in its technical craft and the way it advanced, effects films just as a whole. It's a deeply important movie. It's also very goofy to look at now. I remember that screening in class. Anytime they showed like a close-up of the animatronic Kong face, everybody just fucking burst out laughing.
It is kind of funny. It is pretty funny.
It is very goofy looking whenever they cut to that animatronic Kong. Yeah, and then, going forward, I did watch the MonsterVerse movies. And, what's funny is I didn't watch Kong Skull Island until after I had already seen Godzilla King of the Monsters, so I don't think I was, aware that the MonsterVerse was a thing until I watched King of the Monsters, because they started talking about Skull Island. I was like, oh, okay, those movies are connected. Cool. But yeah, those movies have been fun. And it is funny how they kind of the main character of the MonsterVerse is definitely Kong, and a big part of that is definitely because he's the quote unquote American monster. But
and the rights to him can't be revoked at any time, like it could be with Godzilla.
That's also true. But another factor to keep into account there is that it's a thing. People relate to movies about monkeys because we are monkeys. So having Kong as the lead makes for a more relatable monster figure. So that is an aspect of just King Kong in general throughout all of these movies that makes him sort of an interesting kaiju creature. But yeah, this particular movie, I definitely will have a lot to say about once we get into our thoughts on the film. Back to you, Cody.
All right, thank you, Tim. A lot of good information. We will talk about MonsterVerse stuff in a bit. But for my history with Kong, obviously, as a kid in the 2000s, this film was the one that was out. I think I watched it probably on TV, on DVD. It probably scared the hell out of me as a kid because some scenes are crazy. I mean, for a 6-year-old, those scenes go crazy. Mm-hmm. But my love for King Kong wouldn't really blossom until I started going to college for film, and then I got introduced to the original King Kong. I fell in love with this movie. In fact, it's still my favorite film of all time. Period. I absolutely love every little bit of it. I love the story behind it. I love how much effort and dedication went into making this film. In fact, it was my first big paper for film class. Got a C, but fuck that. It was still a good paper. And then I just, I went through all the films ever since. I've seen every Kong film. I own every Kong film as of right now. I'm Team Kong for life. I didn't see Kong Skull Island in theaters because, again, that was a little before. I did see Godzilla vs. Kong in theaters. That was my first one. I saw it with my dad. That was a good time. And then I saw the sequel in theaters as well. Also a good time. So I always hold the big monkey close to heart. I like his story, especially from the original. I like the thematic of beauty kills the beast, and we'll get into more of that when we talk about the film overall. But yeah, might be a little late bloomer when it comes to Kong, but I have a lot of respect for him, and yeah, that's my history with Kong. But for now, we're gonna talk about King Kong 2005, and I gotta keep calling it 2005 or Peter Jackson's King Kong, so we can just call it Peter Jackson's King Kong.
We're millionaires, boys. I'll share it with all of you. In a few months, his name will be up in lights on Broadway. Kong, the 8th wonder of the world.
We're gonna talk about our thoughts on the film, and we're gonna start with Austin. Let's start with you. What are your thoughts on King Kong?
I gotta double time this. Okay, there's this trend surfacing in certain parts of the internet where every time Disney drops a bit of bad CGI, like the Axel hologram in Thor Love and Thunder, or Elena blowing up in Black Widow, some dudes in the comment section posting a 4-panel screenshot comic about how CGI looked better back in the 2000 aughts. Usually present in the lineup, you see stuff like Iron Man 1, the first Avatar movie, Davy Jones from Pirates 2, and our boy, the topic of today's picture, Peter Jackson's Kong of the Kings. And it makes perfect sense that that movie would look great. Just like Avatar and Pirates 3, King Kong was one of the most expensive movies ever for like a solid year until X-Men The Last Stand came out and beat it. Adjusted for inflation, King Kong cost more than The Electric State, the first Avengers movie, and even the famously over-budget 1960s Cleopatra movie. Plus, this movie just had the combined might of the talented crew who gobbled up 17 Academy Awards doing Lord of the Rings together. You see a certain amount of there's a sentiment echoed throughout the behind-the-scenes material for Kong. Lord of the Rings put Peter Jackson and Weta at the cutting edge of early aughts filmmaking. And in some ways, King Kong's production was more daunting than all three of those films combined. I think it's fair to say those spiteful internet memes aren't lying, right? How does everyone feel like... Does everyone agree that this visually holds up? Yay or nay?
Absolutely. It looks phenomenal.
For the most part.
That's fair. Okay, well, in my opinion, some of the boat stuff may be hit or miss. Everything set in New York and Skull Island really kicks thunderous ass. And funny enough, those environments were achieved using polar opposite approaches. So on the digital side, you've got New York, a painstakingly crafted, fully CGI reconstruction of what New York looked like in 1933. Well, some of it's like the extension of a one-story set, but mostly CGI. To get everything done, they got a 3D satellite scan of New York that was made in 2001. Then they used old aerial photographs from back in the day.
When in 2001?
When? Oh! You know, before September. That building wasn't there, you know? Probably. Then, okay,
Stone,
so they got...
where are the towers?
It was in the 70s version, so Kong would know.
They got these old aerial photographs from the 30s, and they started to, piece by piece, remove every building that was made after 1933. To make these thousands of low-poly buildings they had detailed enough for a feature film, they wrote a Maya-embedded language script that they called CityBot, using 350 cinema-quality cells featuring shit like windows, streetlights, pigeon coops, vents. They had CityBot analyze every surface's relation to the street and the other buildings around it. It broke buildings up by architectural type too, between like Federalist, Beaux Arts, Italiante, and Art Deco. CityBot dressed the majority of the buildings procedurally so they didn't look like cheeks. And then, to make New York City look shitty, they ran these massive rain and snow simulations that covered the whole model. Because after all, nothing ages a city faster than bad weather. For the pollution, that haze that you got from the 30s, like coal-burning furnaces, they looked to this one SIGGRAPH paper about analyzing gradients with Poisson equations. That is hard to say. Poisson equations. Fuck. The paper established this general method of haze removal. They ran a test on this old photograph. They analyzed the gradients in the background and the foreground. It worked. The haze was gone from the photo. Then they spent the rest of the film using that same tool to put more haze in the movie. They used it for the opposite of what it was built for. And this may be conjecture, but there is a solid chance that the hand-built CG hero model for the Empire State Building took 4 months longer to create than the actual Empire State Building. And then that's a lot of like really state-of-the-art computer graphics stuff that made shooting in Depression-era New York City possible for anybody in 2005. But like I said earlier, they took opposite approaches. So for creating Skull Island, with its really dense flora and fauna, the Weta Workshop guys opted for a totally different approach. If you think that middle of the movie holds up really well, the reason for that is miniature set extensions. One really badass thing this movie did, and I promise this leads back to miniatures, they prevised everything in 3D before they filmed a single shot. They had, like, the action and the geometry that the action happens on top of, made in a computer. So, since they had that data, they used this laser prototyping machine to cut out the miniatures, so it would have the exact geometry they needed to recreate the previous shots. Need a funny trench? The green screen guys and the miniature guys know exactly how to build that slope. They just have to do it at different scales and with different tools. Like literally cutting edge stuff. One detail that struck me as downright fucking crazy about Skull Island's little miniatures is that Peter Jackson wanted all the foliage to move. Like, apparently that's an Achilles heel of miniatures. They're small, so they don't sway gracefully in the wind like normal-sized plants. But the technicians at Weta stuck, like, fake hinges and joints all over stuff and did the fucking math to figure out how fast everything was supposed to, like, flap around at its relative scale and frame rate. Then everything had to be, like, cut into these little slices for these enormous 3D motion control shots. And there's like a lot more. They implemented a really fantastic new model for simulating Kong's hair. Weta wrote their own digital solutions for like waves, foam, trees. The sound editor made a voice box called the Kongalizer that transformed Andy Serkis's voice into scary gorilla noises. I could literally go on for hours. This is actually one of the most well-documented productions we've ever covered on the show. There's like 20 hours of bonus features. Peter Jackson's King Kong is an honest-to-God triumph. It's one of the most powerful directors of the 2000s, high off making the most successful trilogy since Star Wars, remaking his favorite movie of all time, with more money than anybody had ever spent on a movie before at his disposal. It's almost as much fun to study as it is to watch, because they really spared no expense with this one. I'm giving this a 9 out of 10 out of sheer fucking respect for how it was made. Back to you, Cody.
Pog.
Thank you, Austin. And if anyone got lost there, he said it was really pretty. So, anyways, let's go to you, Tim. What are your thoughts on King Kong?
So, I mean, we've all talked about how important the original King Kong is, and I apologize for roasting it a little bit. I didn't know it was your favorite movie, Cody. That being said, I think this might be, in my opinion, the best King Kong movie. Like, it takes that original story, it expands on it in all the right ways. I love how they kind of recontextualize the relationship between Anne and Kong to where she feels less like a damsel. It feels she's given more agency, which I think makes this movie work a little better for me. It's yeah, everything Austin said is incredible. Like, just by looking at this movie, like, you can tell that it was a mammoth of a production, and, you know, knowing Peter Jackson coming hot off the Lord of the Rings movies. And yeah, this coming right after them, it's sort of that perfect sweet spot of, like, where Peter Jackson was able to just, like, get that perfect balance of, like, CGI where there needs to be CGI that looks good and continues to look good, balanced with, like, still a lot of really good practical effects. It just makes it more of a, like, just really good, timeless movie. Jack Black's performance is really impressive. Like, I'm amazed at how much he kind of, like, reeled it in and played it straight, considering this was sort of the peak of his, like, School of Rock, Tenacious D era, where he's just like, yeah, in every fucking movie. But he played a dramatic role really well here, and it was really impressive. Yeah, it's just a really good kind of, you know, upscaling of that original film. And, you know, the runtime is a little long in the tooth, but it feels earned, and, like, you know, it's a Peter Jackson adventure movie. So that's kind of what you're going into. Like, if it's Peter Jackson and it's not one of those earlier exploitation-y kind of horror movies, it's gonna be a long one. You're gonna have to sit down for a minute. But it's gonna be worth it. It's gonna be great. It's gonna have some incredible visuals. On this viewing, I think I, you know, had a better appreciation for its sort of message about exploitation in the entertainment industry, and particular exploitation of animals. Particularly after having seen Nope, this really rings true. By the way, that theater scene, after seeing Nope, I'm just like, that should have been a much bigger bloodbath than it already was. King Kong would have fucking gone ape shit, but yeah, it's a really, you know, good kind of telling of that sort of messaging of man's hubris exploiting nature, all that stuff we talked about in the Godzilla episode 2. There's just people fucking up and finding out. So you talked about the whole beauty killed the beast thing briefly. I was watching this movie with my fiance, and Cody kind of had a word about that line, which is that it wasn't beauty that killed the beast. It was people who, you know, exploited the creature. That's what killed the beast. Which I think that's kind of interesting. But yeah, it's a good movie. Movie good. I'm running out of steam here, but yeah, it's a great film, great remake of a classic. Some of the stuff in that island scene with the natives, I'm not so hot on, but other than that, the movie good. Back to you, Cody.
Thank you, Tim. And I gotta say, going from a Minecraft movie to this, when it comes to Jack Black, is total whiplash in terms of performance. But I'll talk about that more later. We're gonna go up to Tanner. What are your thoughts on King Kong?
Jack Black is so fucking good in this. What the fuck?
Woo!
That was my primary takeaway. I did not know he had this shit in him, man. And I love Jack Black. I think he's a great actor. I did not know he had this fucking shit in him, man. Why isn't he doing shit like this more?
So he gets that paycheck for the Minecraft movie.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a big one.
Now I'm sad.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna look up the budget for a Minecraft movie.
150 million.
Peaches.
Why do you know that off the top of your head? I don't like that.
Because I'm a loser, dude.
Find God.
Type of Kong.
Find God.
Good, because they're not making movies like this, like, right now.
They don't make movies like this anymore. I think it's funny that it was the most expensive film ever made at the time, and they have since made 59 movies more expensive. Adjusted for inflation, 25 movies more expensive.
There we go.
Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumanium cost $120 million more than this movie. Make of that what you will. That's adjusted for inflation, by the way.
Tangled, also really high up on the list.
Okay, but that makes sense. They had to they remade that movie like 3 times and invented new hair rendering technology.
They invented hair.
They kinda, honestly, for an animated movie, CG, they did kind of invent hair.
They also built on the hair thing they used for this movie. It's called the Mershner model. The
really?
SIGGRAPH paper came out in 2002, and when they implemented it in Kong, it was a huge fucking deal. And Tangled built a lot on the Mershner model.
That makes total sense because the fur here is spectacular. Now, earlier when you asked the CGI of this movie mostly holds up, I said for the most part. I'm gonna elaborate on that real quick because it's like the only kind of negative thing I want to say. I do think the compositing in some of the scenes, specifically when any creature other than Kong is touching a human, looks a little whack. Honestly, specifically the bug scene. I know the bug scene is probably a highlight for everyone here, and for good reason. It ends with Kyle Chandler fucking swinging in, firing a machine gun, which is fucking awesome. But whenever the bugs are like crawling around on them, there's this like weird layer of separation between them that is present in a lot of CGI human interaction in the mid-2000s when we were getting to the point where we could make this technology look really good and realistic until it touched something that was actually real. We're now starting to reach the point where it can touch something real and it doesn't fucking matter. And especially finding out that the environments in the New York environments were completely digital is like really fascinating to me. I think that's really cool. This is the best King Kong movie. No offense to the original, which was probably my answer for the best one before this. I can't believe it's taken me so long to see this one, especially because I've seen the 1976 King Kong. Make of that what you will. I've seen the back. I think I've seen like chunks of this movie through like it comes on TNT. It used to come on TNT like every other fucking weekend back in the late 2000s. It was always playing on TNT. So I caught like solid chunks of it through the years because of that. wow, this is really good. The 3 hours honestly flies by. Jack Black is fucking incredible. Adrian Brody's great as always. Naomi Watts is like maybe the most beautiful woman alive in this movie, but beyond that, she's also like incredible performance in this. And I loved that. And I think for me, this is the first time I kind of, Tim was touching on this earlier, how they changed like, Naomi Watts' character to be like less of a damsel in distress and more of a character of agency. This is the first time I think I kind of actually buy Kong. I've always bought Kong caring for the person. I never fully bought the person caring back in a way that I do with this one. I'm convinced Naomi Watts fucking loved that monkey by the end of this movie, honestly. I'm convinced she actually loved the monkey on some level. Maybe not romantically, obviously. But there was some true love. Not that, you know, there's something going on there. Like the scene where Kong and her are just playing in the ice in New York. I started to cry. I found that so touching and so moving. And then when he started getting attacked by the military, I out loud went, no, no, leave him alone. He just wants to play.
Leave that little guy alone.
Bro is literally so chill. Yeah, I don't know. There's a billion more things I can say. Like I said, the CGI for the most part has aged incredibly well. Every time Kong is on screen, holy shit. Holy shit. Andy Serkis does a great job as Kong. I want to say that. He does fantastic work here as per expected. Andy Serkis also does great work as the ship's cook. Every time I remember at some point he started talking and I went, is that fucking Andy Serkis? I thought he was just the monkey. Everything in this is great, and more than anything, I think why I love this movie is that it's in part a movie about making movies. And most filmmakers are suckers for that shit. I find. I'm suckers for movies about making movies. Every time I see a movie that's like that, I'm like, wow, they're making movies. And I just kind of like lose critical thought.
There's a horror movie called The Editor, and I'm just like, I do that.
That's me. Leo
He just
point.
like me for real.
When Carl Denham at the beginning of this movie hears that he's about to get canned, immediately goes, all right, we're running with the money. I was like, I get it, man. I think I do that too. I think it's remarkable he's able to get away with that. Like the boat had just left the pier when the cops showed up. The cops could have been like, hey, hey, stop it.
No, he's on the water. They're on the land.
They're on the water. They can't stop them until they're miles out, and then they can be, we have a warrant.
Yeah. I was waiting for the one to just throw their hat down like,
Stupid, it's the 1930s. We gotta do this when we don't get our way.
oh yeah, they'll say like, dang nabbit. Never mind, they won't say shit.
Actually, the funny, you want to talk about the cornball humor of this movie? I was rolling on the ground laughing at the beginning where it was like, where that one producer was like, what about the boobs? What about the knockers?
yeah!
The
Boobies.
bazingas? We need boobies in this picture.
We need some booba.
Fucking the way Jack
Booba?
Black says
Booba?
boobies, like it's so relaxed. It's good. Fuck.
Boobies. Boobies.
Yeah.
I do love the way he says that. It's very funny. I don't know, man. I have a lot more to say, maybe. Or maybe I don't. I don't know. It's kind of hard to, like, nail this one down other than to say, shit rocks. Back to you, Cody.
Thank you. It's my turn for movie thoughts, and obviously as the King Kong guy, I got a lot to say on it. Especially since this movie's fucking huge. Like, if the original King Kong is like a story, this is like an epic, an adventure, a saga. Like, even though this is only one movie, it does so much. In fact, you can watch the original King Kong, then go make dinner, and then go watch Son of Kong, and this movie probably won't be finished yet. That's how long this fucking
very
movie
long.
is. It's super long, but it never felt like, even though it is a bit long in the tooth, it didn't feel like unwarranted. It felt like Peter Jackson said, I'm going to put everything in this goddamn movie, no matter what it takes. And, you know, someone, you know, Peter Jackson obviously grew up with the original Kong. He respects it a lot. And you could definitely tell he wants to make sure that respect is shown in every little bit of detail, especially the VFX, which I will not harp on too much because obviously we all said a lot about it. So VFX is fantastic. You know, they really show 30s New York quite a bit. Skull Island looks great. Whew, sorry.
You just farted.
Lost my train. I did not. I just lost my train of thought. And you went to the darkness over there.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Oh man, I really lost my train of thought. Fuck.
There we go.
Tim, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. No, I just absolutely love the labor of love that is this movie. You can tell, and I appreciate. Well, the big thing I appreciate is that Peter Jackson didn't just go, "All right, we're just remaking King Kong," and that's it. No, he decided to kind of go on his own story. You know, obviously with the main character, and you know, she's kind of the main, because in the original, Carl is kind of the main character in a sense, but in this one, it's kind of Anne. It's kind of her. It's almost like it's her perspective of the events, where it's a bit more cruel, a bit more unjust, because you know, she probably was mistreated a lot in the 30s. It was pretty fucked up back then. And you know, we got Carl, who's played by Jack Black, and obviously, you know, I know a lot of people don't like Jack Black's performance in it. I know there's people that don't like it. I'm perfectly fine with it. I think my general issue with this whole movie overall, I think every character is great. I think every character does its job well. I think I just don't like the script of the movie overall, or more so the directions. Now, that might just be because I'm a big classic Kong fanboy, so maybe I'm just wrong and incorrect as always. But I don't know. There was just certain ways, like for example, Carl in the original, like, yeah, he's a wild card, but you know, he's up front. He's respected. He's up front. In this one, he's kind of seen as a little bit of a joke at the beginning, and even throughout the whole film. It's something I kind of don't like overall, but I can tell this is Peter Jackson's version. It's not him just reusing everything start to finish, and I do appreciate that. I can treat this as its own thing instead of just redoing everything. Unlike a certain other fucking King Kong over here. Not sorry about that one. But, yeah, every character, and also, you know, like the main, because the main love interest is also different, because in the original, it's kind of the captain's man, you know, John Jack Driscoll. He was the original. And when I forgot who plays him in this one. When I saw him in this, I thought it was like, oh, they're doing the same thing. But no, it is Jack. Wait, is this the character? They play a different character, because in the original, he plays the shipmate, but in this one, he plays kind of like the writer. He's kind of like the writer of the film. And they're played very, very differently in this. Obviously, I definitely prefer, you know, Bruce Cabot a lot more than Adrian Brody, but that also might just be bias. I think they all do a fantastic job with the script they're given. I just don't like the little bits and pieces that they change, because it kind of also recontextualizes the story a little bit. And that might just be because since it's a 3-hour-long movie, they have to fill it with a lot of things to make it worth watching. I think my biggest gripe just comes down to like near the end, where it does become more about human exploitation rather than the kind of general like premise of beauty kills the beast, which is perfectly fine. I just prefer the original and how it tells its story. And I kind of prefer, as much as I do love Kong being like more sympathetic in this version, and that does kind of lead as a gateway to the monstrous, which we'll talk about in a bit. I kind of prefer the monster a little bit in the original. I prefer he was a bit more monstrous, and how he was kind of changed more at the end. He was more changed at the end of the film compared to this one, where he was kind of changed right in the middle, like during that little scene where she's performing for her, which was a very funny scene, I will admit. I love their interactions. They're really good. And I should probably stay more positive, because it sounds like I hate the film. I absolutely don't.
I think you do. I think you just said this shit sucks ass. I think that was your exact word.
Maybe, but truth be told, since I'm being threatened, I love this film. It's a great film. It makes it, you know, 3 hours. It's 100% worth your while. I'm glad you see more of New York. I'm glad you see more of the ship, because both scenes are very cut down in the original. I'm glad you see how like big and immersive and mysterious Skull Island is. Like, if you were a kid watching the original King Kong, you thought it was all like cool and mysterious because you didn't really know where we were going. This one kind of shows you like the whole world's like entire landscape. Like imagine being like a kid who grew up with the original and then saw this. Like, I couldn't even imagine. But I'll probably say more of my thoughts in general discussion. But overall, I think it is a great movie. Definitely top 3 Kong, but I have my bias towards the originals.
He didn't play so good!
All right, Tanner, I was checking the film stock. You did a good performance there. I noticed something in your background there. It looks very pretty. What is that?
Why, yes, it's a movie palette.
Ooh,
You can see one
I didn't
behind
know
me
that.
for the movie Punch Drunk Love. Above Tim's right shoulder, well, I guess his left shoulder, right to you, the audience, you can see one for the movie Mandy. Basically, it takes the primary color of every frame of a picture, slices it up into these little strips, puts it all in a row for a nice little art piece for you to enjoy. You can get one for the movie King Kong, you can get one for the movie King Kong, or you can get one for the movie King Kong. Though that one might look a little weird in grayscale. And you can add all 3 to your cart, but before you hit checkout, go ahead and enter the code SQUAD15 to save 15% on your order. Thank you so much if you do order. And now back to the show. Cody, you gonna launch us into general discussion?
Sure, yeah, let's go straight into general discussion. I was gonna... You have a question?
I have something I want to share with the class.
Tanner has
Oh,
an
of course.
answer.
Of course.
I am the
By all
answer.
means. By all means, I'll let you take the floor.
The most fascinating thing I found out, because I read on Wikipedia a little bit about the movie after watching it, the most fascinating thing I discovered is that Universal hired Peter Jackson to make a King Kong movie before he even started pre-production on his Lord of the Rings movies.
Yep.
Interesting.
Peter
And initially,
Jackson,
he declined.
yeah, well, originally he declined, then he did it, and then Weta Digital got 6 months into VFX pre-production onto the movie before Universal got cold feet because 1, Godzilla was coming out, and 2, there was a bunch of other monkey movie remakes coming out, such as, I shit you not, the 1998 movie Mighty Joe Young, a movie you have never heard of before in your life.
I owned it on VHS. Can't
And-
remember
The
original's
goddamn
better.
thing.
And the 2001 Planet of the Apes movies, which, fun fact, Peter Jackson was also offered to direct at some point.
A lot of monkey business.
And also, again, before he did Lord of the Rings. Peter Jackson had a lot of respect in the industry before he did Lord of the Rings because of the shit he was doing with Frighteners. But Universal was specifically so impressed by just the dailies of Frighteners that they were like, they offered him a Creature from the Black Lagoon remake. They wanted to distribute his next movie and produce it no matter what. So they offered him Black Lagoon and he said no. Then they found out he's fucking obsessed with King Kong. So they offered him King Kong. And at first he said no. And then apparently like 2 days later he called him back and was like, actually, yes.
Yeah, I don't have an exact quote for this, Tanner, but I remember he said something along the lines of he said no, but then he thought about somebody else doing it and
Literally.
immediately called back. It was
Basically
like,
what happened
yeah,
is like,
I'm
oh
on
God,
it.
they're going to do this anyway. Someone else is going to fuck it up. So it's got to be me. Someone else would have gotten it wrong, you know?
Yeah.
And when it was time. Oh, Tim?
I was just gonna say, I will say, watching this again after 20 years, Jesus, it definitely on this viewing was more apparent how much of Peter Jackson's horror sensibilities kind of play into some of the stuff in this film, which was something I also noticed on revisiting the Lord of the Rings movies. It's very interesting how he can make these, really widely accessible kind of adventure films that still have a taste of this horror stuff. It's just Peter Jackson, good director sometimes.
And
She
when it
Peter
was
on my
time
Jack
for
till I
the-
son. No, she Jack on my Peter till I son. That one works. That one works. That
There
one
we
makes
go!
sense.
Hey,
Get outta here.
Peter.
Hey, Peter.
Fucking when it was time for him to finally direct the movie and it all was said and done, his pay for directing this was $20 million fucking dollars, which for a long time was the most a director was paid for a movie. I think the next time anyone got close was when Christopher Nolan made Dunkirk, where they also paid him $20 million.
And fun fact about Peter Jackson, I think he had to give up a lot of his director's fee because they went $30 million over budget.
Yep, he had to sink a lot of his money into this.
I understand he personally spent $32 million to make the movie.
Love of the game.
I wish I personally had $32 million to make a movie. I don't need the $170 million from the studio. I could do so much shit with $32 million. Watch this. Now, Tim, if you could just put in like some cool graphic there, I'd really appreciate it.
It'd be funnier if you didn't.
Graphic design is my passion.
Yeah, just put the graphic design as my passion graphic over there. No, find the original Bomb Squad logo. The one that fucking Austin put together for the logos video where it just explodes into the shitty MS Paint concept I hate.
There we go.
So, fucking crazy fact about the camera that Jack Black is toting around. This is fucking insane. So that is the Bell & Howell 2709B serial number 132. Get this, it's the first camera that William Fox bought to found 20th Century Fox with. The piece of equipment that started it all. It is the Genesis camera for 20th Century Fox.
He carries it like it's the Genesis camera. Like, do you see? No, I gotta talk about those scenes because, like, in the original, and take a shot every time I say in the original, you'll fucking die. By the way, after like the initial like scenes, it kind of just goes back in the boat, and they just gotta go rescue Anne. He takes that shit to the entire journey, and he's like, when they're on the raft and everything gets tipped over, he's got someone's like, take the camera, god damn it! Like, that thing is like a lifeline to him. And as a filmmaker, I agree, I'd probably be holding that up to over the water if I was in his position. And dude, when we get to the spider pit scene and that camera's fucked, dude, like, I think he changes. Like, you can see in the tone of his face, he is a different character entirely now. Like, he is ready to get revenge, and his revenge is taking a giant monkey back home, as you do.
Jack Black truly respects the got it rule of cinematography.
Yeah, you gotta respect a man who respects cinematography.
In the extended cut in this movie, he keeps accidentally recording people dying, from what I understand.
Yeah, I did watch the extended cut on accident because that was the one I had, and I was like, why is this movie super long? I'm like, oh, it's 3 hours and 20 minutes. My bad. So I got my fill of Kong. Don't you worry.
So in the extended edition, he just accidentally makes faces of death.
Basically.
Pretty much. Probably wouldn't even be the worst, like, found footage film if it released as is, to be honest. There's probably worse out there.
Oh, Joe wanted us to bring up that David Lynch thing.
Yeah, I was gonna get into that. So there was a quote that Naomi Watts gave that I guess when she got cast for this movie, David Lynch said, Naomi, any actress who gets held in the hand of Kong is gonna be a star. And I do love that, especially because I saw something similar recently. It was a story from Laura Dern about how after they wrapped filming Wild at Heart, she was just talking to Nick Cage, and she was just like, yeah, Steven Spielberg wants to get me on the phone about some movie with dinosaurs. I don't know. Nick Cage is like, you're going to do a dinosaur movie. You can't say no to a dinosaur movie. And that's how Jurassic Park got made.
A lot of dino enthusiasts on the Wild at Heart set, turns out.
Yeah.
It's just how it is.
Be like that sometimes.
Speaking of things to bring up, because this movie got a lot of promotion. In fact, I think out of all the Kong movies, it probably got the most like hype around it, given the budget. No shit. I know at Universal they had a big attraction. I know Joe wanted me to mention that. It was at Universal Island of Adventure. Had a really good Kong like animatronic too. Really impressive stuff. I never went. I was too young. I know that they dressed him up for Christmas. That's all I know because I saw that video and I commented, "Is this real?" And I got a reply, "If you believe it's real, it's real." So I felt personally blessed by Kong himself there. There was also a video game adaptation, and the only reason I bring this up, because I know it's not that impressive for 2000s movie, but it was actually overseen by Peter Jackson himself. He wanted to make sure this film or this video game adaptation was good. And yeah, from what I've heard and from what I've seen, it's actually a really good video game adaptation.
Peter Jackson's just like, this is going to be the next GoldenEye.
Nice.
Kind of is. It's
Don't worry, I'm looking up gameplay footage right now.
Yeah. It's pretty generic by today's standards, but you know, for a licensed game back then, it was pretty impressive.
Is King Kong?
It got good reviews. I used to watch G4 a lot, and people liked the King Kong game.
Yeah.
First person.
Yeah, Peter Jackson just has like absolute love for Kong as a whole. In fact, the I think everyone knows this, but like the spider pit scene, which is famous in this movie, was actually in the original 1933 Kong. It was scrapped, I think, because of pacing and people didn't like it during the initial viewing.
I heard it was due to pacing, and that during the test screenings, people were like actually vomiting because it freaked them out so much.
Which makes me so sad because besides like one frame, we do not.
We have nothing of the footage. It's like it's
besides one frame. We have one frame of it, but that's it.
I believe it's out there somewhere. Some like collector's holding on to it, jerking himself off to it.
And his name is Peter Jackson. He has it. He's holding on to
We're gonna find that scene next to the only copy of him.
Well, actually, in the King Kong archive collection, the special edition, on the DVD and the Blu-ray, Peter Jackson and company actually did recreate the spider pit scene with the original effects in mind. And he actually went on record to say it was as difficult making that version as it was making like the one for his movie, because they used all the original effects, which still are insane to do to this very day. So it's a very good scene if you want go watch it if you haven't seen that like recreation already. It's on the Blu-ray. It's probably online somewhere as well.
Yep. Anybody in here hear about what Andy Serkis did with the group studying gorillas?
No, what did he do?
So dig this. To do research for playing Kong, Andy Serkis went and he studied some gorillas in the zoo. Apparently, like the lady gorilla was like super into him. Like this lady gorilla wanted to fuck him, and that made the male gorilla like murderously pissed. But then Andy Serkis, like, he couldn't shake this idea that these gorillas in captivity just don't behave right. Not the same as wild gorillas. So he asked Peter Jackson if the production would let him go to Rwanda to see the mountain gorillas that roam free. Obviously, Peter Jackson was like, Jesus Christ, no. The insurance would never cover you visiting actual wild gorillas. So Andy Serkis flew down there without telling anybody, without asking.
And he filmed you guys, I'm doing it anyway.
he fucking filmed himself getting within like 60 feet of these fucking wild mountain gorillas. He almost got himself killed for this shit. Guy was nuts.
That monkey was the best of us.
If that trip made sure that this performance was fantastic, then so be it. I think it was worth it.
Starbucks, they're everywhere.
Shit.
His goal was to get heaven and take her with me.
Listen, the reference was going to come up at some point in the episode, but that felt like the perfect moment.
I'm the son of God.
He ripped the Band-Aid off.
What's dead ass though? What was that fucking gorilla's plan when he got to the top of the Empire State Building? What was his next step? What was his next steps? I want to know that badly.
I mean, it feels more natural in the original because, the whole, like, symbolism of, he's the king of everything. He's on the top of everything. So he goes to the highest peak. That's why in the 70s version, he doesn't go to the Empire State Building. He goes to a building much taller, the Twin Towers. But
like, in this version, he's clearly a much more intelligent creature. I think he's relatively intelligent in the original, but he's, like, probably very intelligent in this movie. He just doesn't have communication skills.
He kind of does. He was kind of doing some sign language.
Yeah, he does a little bit. So it makes you wonder, again, what was his plan? What were the next steps?
He didn't know about planes. That's like cheating,
Yeah. Fair point. He thought, they can't get me up here.
Yeah.
No, you can actually see it in his face. When he gets there, he's like, all right, girl, we're good.
We are good. We're going to stay here. fuck.
I like
Just
the
the
scene.
second one of those biplanes shows up, fuck.
No, I like how in this version they show Kong's natural like weakness towards flying creatures more so because like in this scene like they fuck him up when they come and swoop.
I think his natural weakness is bullets.
In that
Yeah.
he
Just a whole
didn't
bunch of
factor
them.
in bullets either.
It was beauty that killed the beast, says the movie. No, it was humanity's exploitation of him that killed the beast, says Tim's fiance. No, guys, I think it was the fucking bullets.
Yeah.
Probably
Actually-
fall too.
Actually, it was Peter Jackson because Peter Jackson was one of the the people flying.
He was one of the people flying the plane. I
Yeah,
think he
which-
flies the plane that gets the hit, actually.
Yeah,
No.
he had, that's actually a reference to the original because Marion C. Cooper also flies the same plane and does the same thing.
Also,
So-
Rick Baker is in the plane. The special effects guy who played
Oh, yeah.
King Kong back in the 75 version. Back when Kong was a dude in a monkey suit. Rick Baker is in the planes.
So he's the only actor who has been Kong and has killed Kong. So pretty impressive rap sheet.
Interesting.
No one's ever going to repeat it. You know, when the animators were working on that final
That's true.
scene, they optioned a bunch of bullet holes and like body wounds for Kong. But Peter Jackson found that it made him too upset. Like the more that they put on him, he wasn't having fun anymore. So he was like, "Get that shit off of him. My boy's gonna die looking like a hitman in a PG-13 movie. No bullet holes." But yeah, he chose not to make it bloody.
Sorry, something just occurred to me. Is Kyle Chandler the only actor to have appeared in a movie with two different King Kongs?
Is he?
Because I know that apparently the actors that originally played Andaro, and here's a fun fact: Peter Jackson, one of the actors that played Andaro in the 1933 version of the movie, to actually say the last line of this movie, offered it to her. She said no at first, but then apparently changed her mind. And this is verified that she changed her mind, but apparently died before she could tell Peter Jackson she changed her mind.
I think she told him the last time they met, she said something like "never say never," and then she Fay Ray McFucking died before they could film that ending.
Honestly, for the best, I'm having trouble imagining. It's not for the best that she died. That's tragic. I am saying I'm having trouble imagining how that scene would play out if just some random fucking bystander goes, "No, it was beauty that killed the beast." How would you know that?
Yeah, it's better
Yeah.
with Jack Black. Mad respect to Fay Ray, but it's better with Jack Black in my opinion. It's a sweet gesture.
Yeah.
Fay Ray was at least alive long enough to give Naomi Watts her blessing. They had like dinner together, and she was like, "Fucking Andaro is in good hands," and apparently that made Naomi Watts pretty stoked.
Oh yeah, she plays a great Anne in this film.
All
Very much
right.
as good as the original, if not better. You have
Guys,
something to say?
what would you say your favorite like set piece of this movie is?
You know, I think I gotta give it to the bug scene. It's so like gnarly and hard to watch, but also just so enthralling of a just thrilling action set piece.
Good answer.
Dino Stampede. Just looking at that, I'm just like, how the fuck did they make this? That must have been so fucking hard to make. Everybody's just running, shit's just stopping down. Fucking randomly a dude takes a second to kick a velociraptor. It is so fucking good. And they had to like hand animate that pile up at the end. Dino Stampede, that's mine.
Would anyone say the King Kong versus V-Rex sequence perchance?
It is a good one.
I would say it's my favorite, but it's a very good scene. I love the part that you're this giant mutant, new evolved T-Rex, and this fucker is just chopping, trying to fucking get in the entire time. Like this it would be like if you were like fighting for your life for a Cheez-It. Like it's just not worth it.
It does the classic thing where like giant dinosaurs that are already eating the carcass of a much larger animal would go, smaller prey with less nutrition on it? Let me go chase after that bitch for a couple minutes.
Yep.
Naomi Watts, hold on.
That's like if a lion was eating like a fucking like a gazelle or whatever, eating a gazelle, and it's all fucking mouse and goes, "Oh, I'm gonna get you, bitch." Like
I'm
it's
gonna
that
die
equivalent.
for this chicken nugget.
Anyway,
Pretty much.
I think it's a good thing, perhaps, that none of you guys have said the King Kong versus V-Rex sequence, because I have some interesting news for you guys. What if I told you Peter Jackson did not direct that sequence?
The second unit director, right?
Oh, buddy. It wasn't just any second unit director.
Not him. Oh my God,
you
you're
know
right.
where I'm going with this.
Oh fuck!
None other than Bryan Singer directed that sequence as a personal favor to Peter Jackson.
Oh God!
Oh no.
That is why Bryan Singer shows up in the special thanks of the movie.
Interesting. I did not
Austin
know
looks
that.
so sad now.
I forgot about that.
I started, like, once I said not just any second unit director, I could see the light in Austin's eyes go, no, wait, I know what he's talking about.
No, wait.
Wait.
Good God.
Apparently Peter Jackson was just fucking beat. And Brian was like, don't worry, man, there's a break in Superman Returns filming. Let me come on over.
Yeah, this is like how that one Lord of the Rings scene, the big fucking, the battle at Helm's Deep was directed by the Jeepers Creepers guy.
Oh, fuck.
Oh.
Fuck off, Salva.
Fuck off, Salva. We're talking about set pieces now.
Cody, did you say one?
My favorite... No, I didn't, but I gotta get that out of my mouth. I think top of the Empire State Building scene was definitely my favorite set piece. I know it's an easy one, but I think what it does way better than the original is kind of just signify how, like, isolated Kong is in that moment. Because, obviously he gets to the top of the tower. He sees this endless cityscape that goes far beyond his reach, and he's like, what the fuck? This there's like it's far beyond like anything he's ever seen before. And in the original, you just kind of only see that in like the limited stop motion of the face, which they do really well. But in here, you see like the scope of New York City perfectly recreated, and you just see how large it is from his perspective. And he's just kind of just like, oh man, I'm the king of nothing over here. What the hell? You kind of feel bad for him when he's up there, where it's like he's trying to still be king, but it's like this is a new world for him. This is not his domain. So I definitely think, just all the set piece in New York was just absolutely delightful. They perfectly recreated the 30s. A lot of the actual promotional posters you see from both referencing King Kong and the other posters are actually from the 30s. They're actually real like promotional stuff. And there's a few references here and there. I like the scene where they're in the car and they're like listing off actors. And I forgot which one. They listed off one. He was like, nah, she's got taken up by RKO. And he's like, damn Cooper. And then, which is funny because at the time, in terms of like when this would actually be filmed, she would have been doing Most Dangerous Game, also directed by Marion C. Cooper, same person who directed King Kong. So very nice. There's a lot of little nods to the original that I love. There's actually a scene when they're actually filming on the boat. The scene with the actor and Anne. That is line for line from the original. Like when it was like the captain's shipmate. It is I liked that scene a lot. I liked all the little bits and nods to the original, but still feeling fresh. And then again, that's the benefit of this movie, where it has a lot of its own scenes, like like the T-Rex scene, and a lot of different versions, like the Spider Pit scene, where it's like this film stands on its own. That's why this film excels where the 70s version doesn't, because you can't think of an original thing that it does, besides the fact that you can say Kong climbed on the Twin Towers. So. Which, to be fair, a future Kong can't do anymore, so he's got that going for him.
So, like, did Kong have a deal with the natives that they would give him girlfriends and shit? Like, what was up with that? What kind of arrangement did they have?
They show that much better in the original. In this one, which I gotta say, the native stuff was definitely, like, underbaked in this one. Like, they show up to beat the shit out of them, and then take Anne.
It's
and then they're gone. And they're
questionable sensitivity in this one, but it's also maybe less offensive than the original. I don't know. It can kind of go either way.
I mean,
it's not great either way.
The original's definitely very stereotypical and maybe not good in the times, but I feel, I don't know. I'll at least defend the originals because at least they're kind of made to be pretty, like, they're still pretty human at the end of the day. At first, because in the original, he just bargains, like, yo, give me your girl and I'll give you 5 of mine. And they're like, no, we're not doing that. And then they're like, all right, fuck it, we're stealing her. You know, they're pretty reasonable in the original. Even like when Kong starts breaking, they're all there. Like keep this gate closed.
Reasonable.
Again, I mean, in this version, when Kong's storming through, they're all fucking gone.
I don't know if it's very reasonable. Be like, hey, yo, we like your girl. We'll give you 5 of our chicks for him. That's kind of fucked up.
He made a peaceful offer, and then he decided
I fundamentally disagree with that being peaceful. They don't know these men. They could be giving these... Obviously, we, the audience, know that these good white men aren't going to do anything to these women. But, like, they don't know that. They don't know they're in a movie. They don't know that that's not the point. As far as they know, they could be like, well, do we give one of our women up to be sacrificed to the Kong to probably get eaten? Or do we give them one blonde woman and then have 5 of our women off to be, I don't know, assaulted or something? Who knows what could happen?
Reasonable. Giant asterisk. Giant. I don't want to defend it. I'm just saying that, like...
Sounds like you're defending it. Cody, have you traded 5 women for a woman before?
We're not talking about the film, dude. I told you not to bring that up.
Shut up.
I'm just saying, especially when they're leaving, those natives in this version are just gone. They're like, oh, Kong's coming? Good luck.
Yep.
Peace. Good luck with that, guys.
I mean...
That's their problem.
Better, that's their... I mean, kind of is, but...
Wouldn't let that happen to me personally. That's what the natives are like. Wouldn't let it happen to me personally.
Yeah, we actually moved our huts all the way over there. We wouldn't put it next to the fucking wall.
They have villages on opposite sides of the island, and they just move every time they sacrifice the Kong.
Yeah, you gotta keep them guessing. Don't let them know your next move.
You never know. You gotta keep them guessing.
Actually, I wanted to open up a little interesting discussion, especially since MonsterVerse has been peeking in the discussion a little bit, because as of right now, this is kind of the last original, like the generic Kong story that we're probably gonna get for a long time, because and also an interesting thing. Actually, I'll say that for later. So what are your thoughts on like this kind of being like the end of like traditional Kong, like this being the last piece before we go to Kong's Island, and then the new Kong? To me, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Only because, I don't know. I honestly feel like this iteration of the Kong story kind of peaked here, and the only other interesting places to go are other things. I don't necessarily mean that it should be in the collaborative big universe sense. Matter of fact, I'm kind of pissed off that the only thank God Godzilla -1 exists, because for a while it seems like the only fucking giant monster movies we were gonna get, Kong and Godzilla had to share the spotlight, and I don't love that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also think it's worth mentioning that, like, for legal reasons, this is technically the last proper King Kong movie. Kong as a character is in the public domain, but not yet. Not King Kong. No, I think the giant gorilla is, but not King Kong.
That won't happen until 2029.
I only say that because, like, Warner Brothers, there's a reason Warner Brothers can't call him King Kong in the movie.
So 2029 is when they're gonna make the movie that's called Godzilla and King Kong.
Probably. Like, I'm not trying to, like, shitpost here, but as far as I know, there are legal reasons they can't say King Kong.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I could talk, listen, we are not going to get into the legal thing, because I could spend another hour talking about the entire legal debacle between, like, 5 entirely different studios over 50 years. We'll save that for, like, a documentary or something, but... yeah, it's very messy. It's extremely messy.
Though, fun fact, Adam Wingard was apparently Peter Jackson's choice to do a King Kong movie after him. From what I understand, Kong Skull Island at one point was a Universal Pictures movie that was a sequel to the 2005 King Kong movie, but I don't know what happened there.
The big thing that stopped that was that since this movie's budget was so high, Universal got cold feet in doing a new one. That's why this is actually the only King Kong film that does not have a sequel. Every single other one, including Toho's, has a follow-up, but this one does not. There was actually a fun thing in I forget what time, in the 2000s there was a promotional video with Peter Jackson and company talking about 2 new films they're going to make, Son of Kong and then Kong something in the Wolf's Lair. But it was an April Fool's video, but it was a very convincing one because they actually got the actors back to talk about the films. But as far as I'm aware of, these films were never properly made. The only one that was actually in development or talked about was the Skull Island movie. But
okay, I'm literally reading the Wikipedia page right now out of curiosity. Apparently, Kong Skull Island was announced in 2014 with Universal Pictures distributing.
Mm-hmm.
But then Legendary, because Legendary was always the one producing it. Legendary apparently then moved the project to Warner Brothers, and I guess at some point that's when they had to drop the King part. I only bring up Adam Wingard because Adam Wingard went on to direct these Kong Godzilla crossover movies.
Yeah.
Even if he didn't direct Kong Skull Island. Why the fuck is King Kong so fucking balls deep in legal hell? Who owns this character?
Story for another day, Tanner. Story for another day. Actually, it's interesting because a lot of the stuff that was in the Skull Island, proposed movie, was made into a book. It's called The World of Kong, A Natural History of Skull Island. So you can kind of see a bit of his ideas in there. I'd be holding it now, but I also like having $150 to myself. Thank you very much. That book is expensive to get nowadays. That's a lot of the trivia that I had, so we kind of went through all of that. I guess it's good we can continue down to conclusions. So we'll go to Tim. What are your final thoughts on the movie?
I just to reiterate what has already been said, I think this is, in my opinion, not the best Godzilla movie, the best King Kong movie. I think this is the best King Kong movie. I think this is, kind of to go off of what you were just talking about, if this has to be the last, proper King Kong movie, classic telling of that original story, I think it makes sense to get Peter fucking Jackson to do it, because he made it the grand movie that it needed to be. And we get these fun little silly kaiju monsterverse things with Kong now, and those have their own merit as just being fun little popcorn movies. But this is the big popcorn movie that probably should have had an intermission, but now it's on home video. You can pause it if you have to pee. So pop some popcorn and sit down with the big monkey. Back to you, Cody.
Austin, final thoughts?
That monkey was the best of us.
God.
Thank you, Austin. Tanner, final thoughts?
My final thoughts is, who the fuck owns King Kong? Who the fuck owns King Kong? I am so goddamn confused. I've been reading Wikipedia for the last 5 minutes. I still don't have an answer. Also, the movie's pretty good, I guess.
All right. Thank you. And I guess for my final thoughts, I love this movie. It's an absolute gem. And even if it's going to be the last kind of traditional King Kong movie for probably a good while until it goes to public domain and everyone can make their own King Kong movies, I think could have gone on a higher note, for a 2000s Kong movie. It's absolutely brilliant. Keeps the original spirit while doing its own thing. Yeah, Peter Jackson nailed it. What else I'm going to nail is this transition. All right, Tanner, you got to do the your final scene where you got to do the little outro thing because I don't know how to do it. So, and rolling.
Who else I don't know the owner of?
Who?
You! the person watching / listening to this episode of Bomb Squad Matinee. Thank you oh so very much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. If you're watching this on any of the audio platforms we're on, thank you so much for tuning in. How about you mosey on down below and leave us a review? It helps boost us in the algorithm or something. I don't know. I just work here. If you are listening, how about you mosey on down over the Patreon? With a $5 tier gets you access to commentary tracks. We just released one for the 2003 Daredevil movie. We just recorded one, speaking of giant monsters, for the 1954 Godzilla movie. So that should be fun. And the $10 tier gets you a shout out at the end of episodes. So my mom, Tanya Kraft, thank you so much for contributing to the channel. We really appreciate it. How about you also, if you're done giving us money on Patreon, you mosey on down over to our merch store. That's right, bombsquadproductions.shop. We got some t-shirts. Cody's wearing one right now. We got a hoodie. We got a couple of hats. We got some posters. We got a magnet. We got some stickers for sale. Go ahead and buy some stuff, and it'll help us support the channel and hopefully lead to us creating more cool stuff, more podcasts, more short films, and maybe more other stuff. We'll see. And finally, if you are watching this on YouTube, thank you oh so very much for watching. We really appreciate it. How about you mosey on down over the comment section below and let me know, what do you think of King Kong 1933? What do you think of King Kong 2005? What's your favorite action sequence in the movie? Is Jack Black amazing in this movie? And finally, did Cody do a good job hosting? If you say no, he doesn't get to do it anymore. He doesn't get to do it again.
Oh no, the channel's turning into Funny or Die.
If you say no, we're gonna fucking old yeller him. So
oh, no.
Make sure you're very careful with your choice of words. And finally, while you're down there, hit the like button so we know how much you like us. Hit the subscribe button so we know how much you love us. And hit the bell icon so you can know exactly when we upload new videos. Thank you so much for watching. Tim, what are they gonna tune in next week for?
Next week, we are talking about the debut film from my favorite contemporary director, Panos Cosmatos' Beyond the Black Rainbow. It's gonna get weird. Tune in. It's gonna be an exciting time.
All right, and cut. Good scene. Good scene, guys. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.